The Attorney General of Texas sent out this lovely letter this week calling people on the left Antifa and saying that, we're incubators of political violence and we're crazy. And that's the gist. And that's a blatant lie. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like we should be able to sue him for sending out a letter and blatantly lying. But I'd like to show you the research on it. And either at the end of the video or in the next video, I want to talk about media literacy a little bit and educate you. So stick around for that. Okay, so the Cato Institute, if you don't know who they are, I call them the Libertarian Mafia. This is a right-wing think tank. I respect libertarians because they're not hypocrites. Republicans are full of crap, so they're lower on the totem pole to me. Not a huge fan of these guys, but I'm referencing them because I'm talking about a letter from a Republican attorney general where he lies. And so I'm using a Republican site. So politically motivated violence is rare in the United States. Interesting, Ken. And then here's a table, murders and politically motivated terrorism, excluding 9/11. Now, this chart illustrates my point. My point is the right is way more violent than the left. But there's a couple of charts that don't show that as clearly. When you're being manipulated by the media, by Ken Paxton, by Greg Abbott, by Donald Trump, they will cherry pick facts and they will blatantly lie. I never blatantly lie, I promise. But I can make my case better, right? This chart that excludes 9/11, it shows that the left is responsible for 10% of the deaths and the right is responsible for 63%. Wow, 53% difference. So you can look at this chart and say the right commits 53% more crime than the left. Ken. So your whole letter is a pile of bullshit propaganda and you'd belong in prison. Okay? Now, let me go to the charts that if I was dishonest, I would exclude and just leave you in the dark. If I acted like a Republican, that's what I would do. But I'm not a Republican. I'm a truth seeker and a teacher, and I'm going to teach you. Always question their motives. Always question where they got the information. Always question what they're leaving out. Okay? Do not be passive consumers. You can't be in this environment. It's impossible. We can't trust any media, in my opinion, because they're all owned by right-wing billionaires at this point. So, fuck the media. Sorry. Now, Republicans would choose to use these two charts because when you include 9/11, the largest incidence of terrorism comes from from Islam instead of the right or the left. And so if you include 9/11, notice the right goes down to 11% and then the left 2%. So see, last time I said there was a 53% difference. Well, that's not the case now, right? Now it's only 9% difference. And so, but they're not even showing that. They're just blatantly lying and say that the left is the responsible. Because in this case, it's like, no, even this chart shows that y'all are responsible for more violence than we are, which is obvious. Y'all are white supremacists. We're like, it's ridiculous how we can be bleeding heart liberals and snowflakes and they want to drink our tears, but we are so terrifying you have to call out the military as well. Excellent rebrand. I heard a video about that and I love it. Yeah. Great rebrand. But so always ask yourself and then try to find the original source and look at it. So this is all in one article that you can go look at the Cato Institute and look at it yourself. But understand that it tells a different story when you take 9/11 out. So my favorite chart, the chart that shows that the right wing is way more violent than the left wing, it includes the Oklahoma City bombings. And so if I just wanted to manipulate you instead of telling you the truth, I wouldn't tell you that because it makes a difference. If you look at the chart here, see that big jump? Those are all the deaths that Timothy McVeigh caused. And so it skews the data. What would be more accurate is to perhaps just have a chart showing the incidents, not how many people died, right? Because then it could be like, well, there is this many right-wing extremists and then this many left-wing. But that's not what this chart shows. So always think critically. And I know it's hard sometimes because we were not taught how to do that very well in America on purpose. Because since 1980, since the year I was born, Republicans have been trying to undermine what people have built in America so that they can get rid of business regulations, not pay taxes, and be as wealthy as possible. And then this just shows you murders since 2020. And again, the right still wins. The left is 22%, which is growing. So we do have growing violence on the left. However, the right is 54%. So still way more. No matter which source you look at, unless it's Fox News, all of the data shows that the right is more violent than the left. To me, all political violence is bad. However, the president and the attorney general and the governor of my state have gone after me on the left. So I feel like it's important to defend myself. I think I'm going to be sure to tag Ken Paxton on this. And any attorneys out there who want to sue his lazy-eyed ass, let me know. Finally, one more thing to consider is the fact that January 6th is not counted for here. And if we want to talk about deaths, there weren't that many deaths on January 6th, though there were several. But how many perpetrators, how many terrorists were there? And if you are one of those people who kind of doubts January 6th and you think that the FBI was there as agitators because you heard Donald Trump say it recently, Kash Patel came in right after him and corrected him. But the lie spreads faster than the truth. So if we were going to use that number, if we were going to use the data that I suggested, which is just looking at perpetrators or incidents, the number changes, right? Because look how many people violently attacked our democracy on January 6th. And what side were they on? The right. Last time I checked, the last time the left did something like that was the Boston Tea Party, I guess. Yeah. But this whole country is full of right-wing extremists who now work for ICE, by the way, desperate to form militias and destroy our country. That's not happening on the left. The idea that there's Antifa as an organization is a complete fabrication because Donald Trump is just a liar.